Welcome to Thunder Nerds. I'm Brian Hinton.
I'm Vincent Tang.
And I'm Frederick Weiss, and you are consuming the... Thanks for watching the show. Really appreciate you joining us today. We have amazing guests, so without any ados being furthered, let's get to them. We have advisor, VP, Head of Design Platform at Atlassian, Zack Gottlieb. Zack, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're really happy to have you, Zack. Zack, before we jump into everything, do you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I can tell you a little bit about my role at Atlassian and a little bit, I guess, kind of how I got there is, like many of the designers of today that have been around for a while, it's kind of been a non-traditional path. I played in product, I played in design. I'm pretty much self-taught, no formal design education that I can mention. And my daily role here at Atlassian is head of design for platform. Kind of goes up and down the stack. I spend a ton of time. It's a really big organization. I'm responsible for 200 plus designers and their work in the platform. It's about, I think it's around a little more than 2,000 people total. And I have a partner in product and eng, and just working up and down the stack, making sure that one, we're delivering on our business goals. Two, we're delivering on those business goals with the customer in mind, and making, always making sure that the customer is kind of at the forefront of the conversations we're having and balancing with the business. So it does go up and down the stack. I like to spend time with the designers as well. I find that, you can't really be a great head of design if you don't actually understand what's happening on the ground. And so that's been one of my philosophies is I try to spend as much time as I can with the teams as well as my partners. So yeah, that's just a little bit of my day to day.
Now I'm curious. I'm curious if you have the traditional bet we always have is way back when you first started. What was the thing that got you doing any sort of design in the first place?
Yeah,
Here we go.
So I actually grew up in a family that was surrounded by design. My dad was a professional photographer here in Silicon Valley and shot many of the products in the tech in the 70s all the way through the 90s. My mom worked in design, and she worked at Meta Design with a well-known design firm. And I was determined not to go design. It was a hard living. Seriously, it's like at the time.
Were you like, you wanted to be a doctor? You're like, I want to be a doctor and a lawyer. I don't want to do design.
Close enough. I went to UC Davis I went to study genetics. My plan was get a degree in genetics, go to law school, open a law firm focused on genetic law. And I was like, that's going to be the hot thing. And,
Wow.
And so what ended up happening is I got to UC Davis, very, very heavy science-based school. And they weeded me out in the first year, and I didn't need a whole lot of weeding out. I was like, this isn't fun. I'm not, I don't want to be a researcher. I don't this is not the thing that's driving me. Oh, I'll just, okay, I'll go be a lawyer. And so then I went and did political science, and I realized I started thinking about it. And I just said, you know what? I don't think I want to be a lawyer. Like the idea of going to work every day and having to be antagonistic conversations with someone across, there's always a deal happening. If you're not being collaborative, right? And I got super lucky. I ended up taking a class in my first upper division class at Davis for poli-sci was this international environmental law. And I'm going to date myself, but this is 94, 95. And Yahoo was still being hosted at Stanford.edu. And the teacher, I walk in the first day and he says, there's no papers, there's no tests. You're going to get email addresses and you're going to build web pages. Everybody looked around like, web pages? What is he talking about? And, I remember building my first web page and my first index.html, right? And all of a sudden I was like, oh, wow, I totally get this. This is, I just saw it was with such incredible clarity because I loved design. I just didn't think I could make a living at it. But it was something I always cared about. And I saw, wow, this is going to be big, right? The amount of communication, the connectivity that we're going to have. And I remember it was just immediate. And then I just, like lots of other people, I got myself, a cracked version of Photoshop, and I sat in a basement over the summer, I remember, and just cranked at Photoshop for an entire summer of just trying to figure it out. And that was kind of it. And then, it's turned into, I've just gotten incredibly lucky, and I've really kept pushing at it, and I've managed to make a real career out of it.
Besides the Photoshop police coming after you at the time in the 90s, what propelled you to learn this? After that point, you learn HTML, you're playing with Photoshop. How did you propel your career forward to the point where you are now? Speaking from the perspective of maybe someone in the audience that's watching that says, I would like to get to that point in my career. How do I become a VP of design platform at Atlassian?
Yeah. Well, I didn't set out to become the VP. That was never my goal. But just taking a step back, I think part of what I did was I just had a passion for it, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it. I just knew there was a future there. I didn't have a sense of. I mean, this is back in the day. Like, no one was even talking about this, let alone even talking about careers in the web when I was still in college. It was kind of this. There was little hints and things around. You could get a few books here and there, but there wasn't a whole lot. And it was just the passion of playing with stuff and the passion of creating things. And through that, I got connected with a number of people. I got really lucky. I connected with some folks in college, and they introduced me. There was a small little department at the school that was working on internet stuff and posting things from the school on internet. And then I met some other folks in the graphic design group at the school. There was, the student graphics group, and just made a lot of connections, and we kind of built it from there. And I got really lucky when I got out of school. I remember I was super, super hungry, and got lucky, had a connection at this place called Adjacency, which was this company I really, really, really wanted to work for. Even back in college, they had written a book, and they were putting all these really amazing media sites together for big brands. And I remember I just walked in, and they were nice enough to give me an opportunity to at least come in and meet with them. And I said, I'll do anything. I don't care what it is. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just give me an opportunity. And they gave me an internship, and they hired me two months later. And I mean, it was incredible. The first thing I started working on was the Virgin Megastore. I was putting like the entire Virgin catalog. At the time, it was creating the competitor CD Now and doing all this cool stuff with these cool brands. And it was like, I couldn't believe I was getting to do that stuff. And it came down to passion. I loved it. It was super fun. It was a lot of hard work, but again, it comes down to people gave me the opportunity, and I ran with it. And I've gotten lucky throughout my career doing that kind of stuff.
Go ahead, Vincent.
Oh, so since your start as a designer, not that you head of design, was it challenging for you to learn how to manage people or manage teams or manage just like the 200 designers that you have on staff, as well as like product vision? Like, how has that transition been in terms of like new things you had to learn along the way?
Yeah, I've had 20 years to do it, so it hasn't felt like it's such an abrupt thing, and I've learned different things along the way. Early on, when I walked in the door, my first job, and they asked me what I wanted to do, I didn't say I wanted to be a designer. I said I want to be the guy who's kind of figuring out what we're going to do, and I have a team, and I help that team actually accomplish those things. And I didn't. They're like, well, that's project management or creative lead, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. It was only, but back in the day, you kind of did everything. Like, it didn't matter what your title was. I was hacking Flash and hacking HTML and Photoshop and doing all those things. As far as leading the team, leading people, I always just had a passion for it. I like working with people. And I've always been enamored. I'm not the greatest designer in the world, never have been. I know that. I know what my strengths are. I'm good, and I have great taste. But my strength is recognizing talent in other people. And, that's always been the thing, is just put me in a room with the most talented people that want to create stuff, and I will help them do it. And so it's never, the managing of people has never really been intimidating. I think, that there's always when you have to manage people out, right? Like the first time you have to do things like that, they're uncomfortable, and, it's not the thing that you signed up for. Those are always learning curves, right? Those are the things that we all have to learn somehow, some way. But then I think, when you talk about the scale going from, 200 plus people now, I think the hardest point was getting over 50. Because I think going from 25 to 50 was like, oh my God. At 25, I was like, wow, I got a lot of people to be responsible for. But I still knew everybody, right? And I still had connection. And then you get to 50 and it's like, wow, that's a pretty big shift. I just doubled. And then I think there's a shift when you get from 50 and beyond, it starts to feel it's less, I think it's less abrupt. And you kind of have a sense of, these are the things I need to do to build a really good organization. And it doesn't change that much as it gets bigger. I think, look, if I had to run a 500-person organization, it would probably be a very different thing. And it will grow to that eventually, but it's not the thing that keeps me up at night. The things that keep me up at night are, are my teams happy? Am I putting environments in place that people can do their best work?
I'm curious. We're in a similar situation. When I joined 3 years ago, we're at 18. Now we're got 80 plus and planning to be over 100, I think, by the end of the year. Do you still have one-on-ones with all 500, or how does that work for you now at this point that the scale is so large? Like, how do you retain those connections?
Yeah, it's definitely getting harder. So my organization scaled. I've been at Atlassian for about 2.5 years. And when I joined, I was responsible for about 40 people. And so it scaled pretty quickly. I don't do one-on-ones with everybody anymore. What I try to do now is, because it's just, I don't have the time. And by the time I got finished with one round, I have to go, it would have been 6 months. So what I try to do is actually spend more time with teams. I still do have one-on-ones, and I do skip levels with a lot of the managers and a lot of the really senior ICs, especially just to get a sense of what's going on on the day-to-day. But I do meetings with or group listening sessions. And I try to do those. I try to roll those on a pretty consistent cadence, so that I am talking to, it could be 5 to 8 designers at a time, and just trying to make a connection that way. That's the best I can do right now. And and then also, as we kind of started to open back up, I know we want to talk about remote work, but as things have started to open up a little bit more, just making myself more available that, hey, I'm going to be at this place. If anybody wants to come meet me, let's get together. So those are the kind of ways that I keep connection.
Excellent. Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and get now to our main topic, if you will, which is the Great Resignation, or the Big Quit, as some people have coined it, inside specifically the tech industry. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And needless to say, the Great Resignation really distributed the technology, or disrupted, rather, the technology industry. In 2021 alone, it seems that more than 41 million Americans quit their job, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the most resignations on record. And the Great Resignation has not slowed in 2022. We'll dive into the nuance of all these things in a bit, but I want to ask you, what's your general thoughts on this at a very high level? And we'll start with you, obviously, Zach.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the statistics reflect, the truth. There's a lot of people moving around for a number of different reasons, but it's a super hot job market, and people have the ability to move like they've never done before. I think the thing that the pandemic has done is it kind of pushed us forward about 10 years. We were really uncomfortable. We were, it's like we'd be ready in 10 years, and it sped everything up. And what it's really done is it's drawn everybody in a weird way. Everything's closer and more available. So people just have this ability to move around more. And I think it's also highlighting, we've got this pressure cooker that people have been in for the last, 2+ years. And people are just looking to make whatever changes possible, whether it's, do I need to make changes in my life, my work life? Is that what's causing me, distress or problems, or are there other things? So I think it's happening for a variety of reasons, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely happening. We see it daily. We see it in the, we see it in the headlines, And we see it in, all the leaders I talk to. It's one of the things that's kind of top of mind for sure.
So at Atlassian, are you required to go back to the office at all, or was there any incentive for that? I know for different companies like PwC or Johnson & Johnson, they require employees to be, present at the office for a few days of the week.
Yeah. Atlassian's really unique. Very early on, our founders decided to create something called Team Anywhere. And so, no, we're not required to go back to the office ever. In fact, the reason they've pushed Team Anywhere forward is we want to be able to recruit anywhere in the world. There's great talent everywhere, right? Not just in these little pockets, but anywhere. And so very early on, they said, no, you don't need to go back to the office. In fact, we're going to make this our, how we're going to do business going forward. And, and to the credit of the team, I think since the pandemic, we've hired 30% of people are now more than 2.5 hours away from an Atlassian office. And certainly we have rules in place, right? We need to, you can't be out of a time zone, can't be 12 hours away from your core team from a time zone perspective. So we have things in place, but yeah, they were really clear about that. And I think it's been really good.
I believe you're muted, Brian.
Muted. Welcome to remote.
Yeah, I mean, I did that on purpose just so that we could show the example of what occurred. During
Excellent example. Good.
Great.
Well done, Brian.
What were there any struggles though during throughout 2020 as far as like the people changing to remote? What was that like? How did you all handle it? Highlight any specific things at all?
Yeah, it's just I think we all went through pretty enormous challenges, and I think that at least for myself, when I look across, I've got people everywhere from Austin to the West Coast to India to Poland to Sydney. It's pretty much around the world, and I think the challenge is, as we've done this, is how do you create the connection, right? We're all everybody's in this place, and everybody's got their own experiences that they were having at that time. So, I remember the surge in India happening, and you just have to, and talking to the teams and the things that were going on there. And then it happened, it's happening in Sydney, and it's just been challenging, right? And I think, getting back to that idea of being connected, it's been really, really hard, especially, all of a sudden you went from spending 12 hours plus on a Zoom call, and then also thinking about the challenges that people have. I have a house that I actually have space. I can do my calls. But what happens when you have people that don't have that space, right? You have a couple that's living in a studio. They're breaking up in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody's stressed out, right? So the combination of our work life and our personal life have combined in such a way that we've still been trying to untangle that. And then I think the other piece I'm sure we'll touch on is just the burnout. How do you avoid the burnout? Because when there's nothing to do except work, that doesn't promote a really healthy lifestyle and one that's going to have a lot of longevity to it.
Yeah, I think a lot of us started working more hours with the remote schedule. We took it upon ourselves to take more in, and boundaries were kind of hard to delineate. Which brings me to one of my more interesting questions here that I want to ask you about is the incentive. So COVID-19 and the resulting shift in remote work has rendered many of these pre-pandemic hiring perks and benefits obsolete. They are no longer resonate for the remote worker. Things like in-office snacks, meals, gym memberships, corporate outings, but there are the people, as you cited, that might live in a one-bedroom apartment with a group of people that do want to go to an office, that do want to get out. But that being said, is there any type of incentive that would make the remote worker want to go back to an office besides the obvious things such as that?
Well, I think there's a few things. I miss the office. Do I want to go back every single day? No, but I miss certain things about it. One, I miss being connected to the team. And I think a lot of people didn't realize or take into account that, being social animals, we actually got a lot of sociability from work, and we're all kind of looking for that connection again. I've gone back to the office now. I'm happily surprised it continues to have more people, even though no one's required to be there. We all get together, and it's really great to see people. And I think that that's the first thing, is just that level of connection and the social aspect to it. I also think that at least in design, we want to be around other designers. We want to be able to kind of jam on things, and it's not as easy to do that in the remote world, right? You got to put time aside for things, and you can't just walk up to a whiteboard and jam on something and spend 20 minutes and you walk away, and it would have taken you 2 hours to do something. I think that's the other piece, is like there's no, in this remote world, there's no getting a coffee, there's no walk to the water cooler talk, which is, we've put these things in our schedules. I need to talk about this thing. It's like a half-hour chunk, right? Which is something you probably would have done walking to the water cooler, having a coffee in 5 minutes, right? So it's like, how do we become more efficient with our time? So I think those are the things that people are looking for, is they don't want to go back 100%, but they want to feel that they know the people they're working with. There is a connection. There is a place if they need, they need to spread out, they need to jam on things. There's opportunities to do that. I think those are the things that are drawing people to the office, not necessarily like, I need to be in there. As I said to my partner, I think it was yesterday, I said, I can't believe I used to do this job and have to commute 2 hours a day. Like, how I work so much. How do I actually, where was my time? How did I get anything done? So it's just, I think we're all having that realization to some level. And yeah, I think that's why people want to get back.
So you're saying people do want to get back to the office or just have that social connection. But I mean, in my last job, I had that social connection where, like, we all work together. The designers work with the developers and the business unit, and it was easy to like have meetings and get things across. But now that I work like at a remote only company, like I feel like I don't need to have that collaboration at our company. I can have it outside of work, maybe at like a coffee shop, like still doing the work, or maybe in the sun, or even like outside of work and like a community meetup for tech events, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think people are moving more towards that, like as opposed to going to the office? They are looking for more social aspects outside work?
It's a great question, and I wish I had a really definitive answer, because I think my answer is it actually depends. If you have an office, like we have offices all around the world, and you can use them as you want. So people, that's a normal place for people to kind of congregate. But if you don't have that, sure, it's during there was a whole period where the offices weren't open and we were going to other places. I met my teams in parks, right? We go have lunch in a park, or we go other places and try and connect that way. It depends. I think it's no one's saying you have to go back to the office. We're just all using it because we've got facilities. There are whether we say that the perks are nice, we're there for the perks or not, they're there, right? You can use them, but no one's saying you have to. So I think it really depends on the team, what the work that they're trying to do, the people they're trying to connect with, the facilities they have available, and then I think people are kind of just figuring it out as they go. But I think it's less about, I need to be at it shouldn't be at the office. It needs to be at a coffee shop. Give people, like, we're all adults. Give people the options. Let them choose the option that works for them. But just make sure they have the options available as they need.
What about the classic walk-around management style? Like, how are you handling? I feel like as ICs, it's fairly easy to collaborate remotely in the sense that you're working together directly on things. But as a manager, you getting that walk around. Hey, how are things going? You can't do that now. So how are you handling that?
Yeah, was never a walk-around manager, so I'm super comfortable with it.
So you scoot around in a chair, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. I still, it's for me, it's always been about getting together my team, having the one-on-ones, finding out what's going on. But ultimately, I don't have that need to go kind of check in on people because I have trust, and it takes time to build that trust. But I've got a great set of leaders. I've been working with them for a long enough period of time that I know they know what's going on. They're experts at their area, their domain. And so I don't feel that need. I'm really there. I feel like my job is more to be available to them, to help them. Either we're going to work on a big problem. Hey, come to me and let me know you want to work through something than about me checking up on stuff. Yeah, it's much more, how do you empower your managers to do the best job they can and just be available to support them, or support my partners. So yeah, I haven't had that inclination of, I need to be checking up on work.
What about office distractions? We want a better quality of life and to get things done without these office distractions. I know when I go in, I'm a chatterbox. I'm guilty of it. And I know a lot of my colleagues or previous colleagues, I could get to that later, were also chatterboxes, which is difficult. I get way more done at home. And we all want flex work, I believe. We all want to kind of stay at home and do what we do. And some of us want to go to the office, and that's fair as well. But some of us don't feel safe yet. And so do you feel distraction or unsafe at the moment for these uncertain times in an office environment is a valid concern for some to most people? Or how do we feel about that?
Well, I'm going to go back to, I think you give people the options and let them take the ones that are most comfortable. I have no requirements that someone has to come into the office. So do what you feel is right for you, for your particular situation. Myself, I've spent enough time in my office that I'm not nearly as effective as I'd like to be. I have too many distractions in here. That's what happens when you surround yourself with your hobbies and you mix your hobbies and your work in the same room. And it's super easy to become, I'll pick this guitar up over here. When I go in the office, I can go heads down. That's the beauty of, because there's not a lot of people in the office. I just go find a corner on a floor that there may be only 2 or 3 other people on that floor, and I can just go heads down, get the stuff done that I need, and that works for me. So the way I put it to my teams is, do what's going to work for you. If you don't feel comfortable coming to the office, don't come into the office. That's okay. We know we can do this stuff remotely. Wait until you feel comfortable with it. You may never feel comfortable with it. That's okay too.
So I have a question related to more so like on the challenges of like scaling up the company in terms of like managing employees. Yeah. So what are some challenges? You said going from like 200 designers, for instance, to 500. Like, what challenges do you see there in terms of managing that aspect?
Yeah, well, I think I've certainly felt some of the challenges just going from that, that 40 when I first got here to the 200 plus that we've got now. The things that I think about the most are, do we have the right machinery in place to actually scale that up, to get the, are we onboarding people correctly? Do they understand how we do design here? Are they getting the cultural aspects that are important and the design principles and have a background? We don't want to just drop them in the ocean and let them, not tell them where to go, or without a life vest. So putting the right machinery in place, that's the design operations. I've built a design operations team as part of a platform that actually serves all of design, because this is one of the critical things you've got to put in place. Otherwise, you find yourself, how else do you have an ability, kind of the levers to move around when you need stuff getting done in the organization, making sure things are being run efficiently, making sure that you have the right training programs in place, right? How do you continue to up-level people's skills and make sure that there's programs available? How do you think about the calibration of your team? Going from, 40 people, you have a pretty good sense of who the star players are and who the supporters are and where everyone fits. 200 gets tougher, and then it only gets harder from there. So what are the pieces that you put in place to make sure that you're having the right conversations, you have the right growth conversations for folks, people understand the trajectory, the profiles for their particular level, and what the expectations are. So doing all those things are super, super important. Those are the things I think about, because if you put those things in place, it actually becomes a lot easier to, those are the things you don't need to worry about. And now you need to think more of at the strategic level, what are you trying to accomplish? How do you put the right teams in place for some of these, some of the challenges that the business has? And that, putting all the other stuff in place frees you up to focus on the strategic side.
Thank you, Frederick. Frederick unmuted me, everyone. That was very kind of because I didn't get it in time. So what about as far as what in all the buildup, is there any mistakes or failures that you failed forward with, learning from, that you think would benefit sharing with anyone?
God, I failed so many times. Like there's so many.
Yeah.
I think that the one that really stood out for me at Atlassian is I probably tried to move too fast. And it was an interesting challenge. So when I got here, I only had about three months before the pandemic, kind of took over. And I really wanted to get a lot done. I saw a lot of opportunities, a lot of potential in the team. I just wanted to get a lot done, but I probably moved too fast. And I was just, kind of came in and was a little bit of a bull in a china shop. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Looking back, I probably should have spent more time listening. And I thought I did. I listened for like a month, and I was like, okay, I know exactly what needs to happen. Like, here's what we're going to go do. And what I realized is I didn't take the proper amount of time to build that trust with my own leaders, my own directs, the people I needed to really have on my side to implement some of these things. And then we went into a pandemic, and I was like, well, how do you push some of these initiatives forward in this pandemic, and this totally remote, and this remote style of working now? And I probably pushed too hard there too, because I also probably didn't realize some of the bigger challenges that I wanted to get a lot of stuff done, but we also had no view of like how long the horizon was going to be for us coming out of this. So I think that was the big thing, is just like listen more, try to do less initially. But it's like we're all ambitious, right? We all want to show up and be able to do grand things and make amazing things happen. And sometimes we lose sight of, how best or effectively to do that. So that's the advice I give lots and lots of folks when they're kind of stepping into roles like this and trying to figure it out. I think there's a great book. I read it. I should have paid more attention to it, but I think it's a Harvard Business Review book. It's like I think it's called The First 90 Days, something like that. And I tell everybody, okay, if you're going to go in a new role, read that, because it's just, even if you know everything, it's just such a great refresher. And of all the things you need to think about. And it talks about things at the strategic level, right? There's the tactical stuff, but how do you identify the right partners? How do you identify what's important to your partners? How do you gain the trust of your partners? All those kind of things that we know, but we don't, they're hard to do. And so we probably spend less time on it. We kind of gloss over the things, those things and move on to things we know how to do, implement the tactical stuff, right? Those are easy. So taking a step back and understanding what the big picture is and what you're really trying to accomplish and how to do that is really, really critical.
It's interesting you're talking about roles. I have a statistic from Gartner here that says only 29% of global IT workers have a high intent to remain in their current roles. That's a survey of 18,000 employees that included close to 2,000 who work in IT. Is this a good or bad thing for the future of how companies treat their employees?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to know what's the timeline for that. Is it I'm moving on in a year? Is it I'm staying, I won't be here for more than 3 years? If you look at the tech industry, at least here in Silicon Valley, people move pretty quickly, right? 2, 3, 4 years is kind of the standard across the industry. So, people moving on isn't necessarily surprising in some ways, but I think that it's probably sped up a lot. The fact that you can interview and you do it all via Zoom, and you can probably do an interview cycle in 1 or 2 days, and you can do this with a lot of different companies, and it's actually, you know, it brings down the amount of time and effort you need to take. Sure, you're going to talk to a lot of companies. A lot of folks, you know, I touched on this a little bit, and I have no proof of this, but my theory is people are looking for any kind of change they can have some control over, right? Especially after the last 2 years when we felt like we have no control over so much. And so people want to make changes, right? And a lot of people think if I change my job, this is going to get better. And so I think there's some of that. People are trying to make any kind of changes possible, and the grass is always going to be greener. I think that people are certainly starting to figure out what they're worth in the industry, and they're seeing, you know, why not? If it's easy for me to reach out or have these I have so many companies in the super hot job market, and they're all reaching out to me. Why wouldn't I talk to all of them and see, you know, what they're willing to pay me? Because everybody's, you know, getting their salaries bumped up. But I think, like, you know, so you're going to have that level of change. It's the question of like, what do you do to actually keep the people there? How do you attract great talent, and how do you keep great talent is, you know, the bigger question, because there's always going to be attrition. There's always going to be people moving. So you can't worry about that as much as how do you keep the people that you have and make sure that you're growing them, and you give them as many opportunities to have a long career where they're at as possible.
So with the intent to stay in like the role, it seems like salary ranges are going significantly like faster, I guess you could say, in terms of like in previous years. For instance, like a senior front end React developer used to make like 80K or 90K, you know, in different cities across the US. But since COVID, and it seems like the numbers have just gone much higher, much quicker. And sometimes it feels like, you know, your annual bonus doesn't really account for that amount of inflation or increase in salary across the market. What do you do there to retain employees that are looking to like make market rate again?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to understand what the market actually is. It jumps up and down, right? We've got all these people that, you know, to your point, it's, you know, a React developer somewhere. If they were in Ohio before, they weren't making a ton of money. Now with remote work being, you know, the standard, they're available, you know, like I said, Team Anywhere, we can pick up anyone. And you're going to be paying a little bit more in like the Silicon Valley type prices. I think at the end of the day, look, people are always going to be driven somewhat by money, and people should get paid, right? People have to eat, people have families. But I think it's also really important to bring it back to like, why are you, you know, is the mission important? Is the team good? Do you care about it? You know, what are the other things that we're actually fulfilling outside of just money? Because the truth is, like, you can go make money anywhere. That's, you know, we all know that we can do that. Why are you at the particular place you're at? What's the fulfillment you're getting? We've got to look for something that's a little bit more tangible than just, I'm going to make, you know, X amount of money, but, you know, what is the actual return on my time outside the financial side? So I think that's the thing we got to be looking at, not just, you know, can we keep up with the price, you know, the market. The market's going to go crazy regardless. So you have to have a little more grounding to it than you're just going to make a bunch of money.
It's something I've wondered about for a while now, is that chase for a golden ticket. We see so many people in the industry in tech design, whether it's design development, just bouncing around every year. I always wonder how they get a grasp of the company enough to know that they want to leave it. How do we shape the newer generations to maybe look closer where they're working and see, hey, maybe this is a place I should settle? Not settle. Settle's the wrong word. Make a home, I guess. Settle, yeah. Settle has the connotation of I'm settling. You know,
Settling into
settle in.
Yeah, settle in. Settling in. Yeah, yeah. Get a blanket, tuck in. Yeah.
Again, it goes back to why are you doing your work? I think you have to. There has to be the mission, or the purpose. Has to be the team. There's always, you know, there are always the financial drivers that people are going to. Some people are going to have that. Some people are chasing titles, and you know, I think what you have is hopefully people start to figure out what they want, what's really important to them, and they're looking for, something other than, hey, I'm just going to get paid. I care about the thing I'm working on. That's how and culture too. And I think that's a super hard thing right now in remote, is like, how do you really establish a great company culture without people really being able to come together and really understand, the particular culture a company may have created prior to the pandemic. I think it's going to be different for everybody, but my advice to people is like, figure out what's really, really important to you and seek that out. And hopefully it's not just the financial side.
In the bigger picture, hiring and retention concerns will intensify as companies plan their strategy, and the HR and benefits undergoing massive changes to accommodate these new realities. And yeah, I would say so. What do you think these new realities may look like? Like, what kind of things can these companies do to bring people back into the office?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of conversation we're having is, exactly on this. Like, what do we actually do? What do we actually offer? I touched on it before. We got pushed 10 years ahead than where we were actually supposed to be. So I think we're still trying to catch up and figure out what all these different pieces are. I don't think it's through mandatory blanket statements of everybody has to do X. If we've seen anything, in this pandemic and some of the trends we're seeing emerging is, there's much more individualism that people have created. It's more of the, this idea of this, me over we. And so how do you give space to that? How do you give more flexibility so people can feel like they can bring more of their authenticity or their authentic self to this and to the company? And I think that people have an expectation of, now that we've had this crossover of professional and personal life, you're seeing in my house. We see all this stuff, in cases we've got, kids coming in the back. Like there's no more just my work life. It's all connected. So being able to give more space to that is going to be super important. And just, making people feel like they're in a safe environment. They're taken care of. They're appreciated. They're connected, but they're also supported. And so I don't know what the exact things are going to be as we talk through them, but I think those are the core principles that I think we're trying to establish of how do we go about doing this and what's really going to matter in the long run.
It's really going to be interesting to see where that goes. Well, Zack, we're getting close to the end, and I really want to have an opportunity to talk to you about roomtoread.org. It's a really great charity that's all about empowering young people and educating. And I know you believe in this cause, and I believe Atlassian is also advocating this cause. Can you tell us all about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Room to Read, I found out about this organization. One of the things at Atlassian that we push is foundation promotion, or I'm sorry, charity and foundation time. So I believe it's 5 days a year we're given to go work on charities that we find important, and it's paid. We're also part of the 1% Give Back Pledge, one of the first. And so I was when I joined Atlassian, I think the first day they said, here's a charity that we are part of. Most Atlassians donate to it. It's like $1 a day, but Room to Read is really about empowering and building youth through literacy, world literacy, right? It's like the one thing that I think there's like 700 million plus people actually aren't literate. And this particular charity really resonated for me because it's also about gender equality. And I'm a father of 2 girls. And so, the fact that they're focusing on that and really about giving women greater opportunities and empowerment through literacy is, that to me is super, super important. And it just, that was like a really easy connection. Of course, I was like, yeah, I'm sign me up. And like I said, most Atlassians are part of this as well. So it's a really good charity. I think people should check it out because they're doing great work.
And how does it work as far? Are you all just doing a blanket payroll deduction with that? How did you partner with them in the first place?
One of our I don't know exactly who in the organization brought them in. One of the great things about Atlassian is there's lots of causes, people champion stuff, and so we have a whole group that just talks about foundation work. And right now we're focusing on the environment. There's a bunch of stuff, like I think this is environmental week, so there's a bunch of environmental causes and coming through and doing sessions with our teams. But yeah, it was super easy. It was like the first day they're like, here's our foundation, and if you want to, click the box if you want to donate $1 out of your paycheck a day to this cause, and this will pay for X amount of folks in and you can pick. I believe I'm donating to Bangladesh, so you can pick places all around the world, but like where your money goes. So yeah, I was just it certainly someone brought in well before I joined Atlassian, and it's incredibly well run, and they just make it really easy, and it's such a small thing. Like we're all, I think, I can't believe where I'm at. I can't believe how lucky I am and all the things that I've been able to do and experience. And so just being able to give back is super important.
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm looking at roomtoread.org, and I'm looking through it, and they seem to do a lot of great stuff. I also run like a tech community, and I'm trying to help people get jobs in my like local area. Not exactly related though, but I don't know. I think it's cool. I don't have anything else to say though.
I'd love to hear about what you're trying to do.
So I'll just be quick about it, but I run a software development group called TampaDevs. It's just trying to get people in the area, whether it's students or professionals, to kind of connect them to jobs and opportunities and learning experiences within the local area. Kind of just how I started off development. I got a lot of help along the way, and I'm just paving it forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you talk to so many folks, myself included. We wouldn't be here if we didn't, other people hadn't done favors for us, paved the way, and just been really gracious with their time and or whatever else they were willing to help you with. So yeah, that sounds like a really important cause, and anything we can do to get people, more people into the industry and learning early on, and yeah, it's good for everyone.
Yeah, opportunities is definitely the greatest path into any job. Which, speaking of opportunity, I think I'm going to take this opportunity to point out. I think I saw in outside Vincent's window there's a little bit of lightning out there. So yeah. So this is our lightning round. So what we'll do is we each ask you a question in sequence. It's kind of at the end of our show thing, and it's rapid fire. I'll go first. My first question is: so did your parents say "I told you so" when you ended up working in design?
No. I think they were worried. I really think I think my dad was worried that it was going to be a challenge.
So if you had to pick one superpower, would it be teleportation or flying?
Oh, teleportation for sure. Because I can get how much quicker. You have to fly somewhere that still takes time and energy. Teleportation, go anywhere.
But it's the experience though. Like you get to fly in the air and you get to soar through the skies. Teleport, you're just there.
I just want to get there.
All right.
Zach, if you couldn't touch a computer for the rest of your life, what would you be doing professionally?
Great question. I'd build guitars.
Oh, nice. Sweet. Okay, my ridiculous question that I love asking now. So you're expecting a super important phone call from a friend or family member. I don't know, maybe it's a birth or who knows what it is. Your phone rings, but you've been eating like Cheetos or wings, and both your hands are just coated in stuff. What do you do? Do you answer the phone immediately? Wipe your hands? What happens?
Well, it depends if it's a really important phone call. I probably have to wipe my hands. I don't think I'm going to answer that phone. Nothing unless, nothing could be that important.
So if you had to eat one food for the rest of your life, which food would it be?
Sushi.
I love that. I love me some sushi. Zach, what is your favorite quality about yourself?
Ooh, that's a good one. Resilience.
Love it.
So, what was the last movie that you watched that just truly made you laugh?
Ooh. I haven't watched a lot of movies. I haven't watched a lot of funny movies lately. I don't know if this is funny, but I just watched like last week. I rewatched The Hateful Eight, and I think there's some really there are some really funny scenes in that. It's dark though. It's super dark.
So we're talking about all the responsibilities of running a big company, right? Or just managing a lot of people. But if you had to pick, your next vacation destination, where would it be and why?
Vacation. Well, I love skiing. So I try to go. Unfortunately, there's no snow right now because we're kind of at the end of the season. But I'd find snow somewhere, and yeah, go spend some time on the slopes.
Awesome.
Zach, what's your favorite professional resource to go to find things out?
My favorite professional resource. Well, I think it's, I don't know if I would call it professional, but I spend a lot of time doing Google searches, right? Otherwise, I'd say I spend time on LinkedIn. Like that seems to be a pretty good thing to peruse, just to get a kind of a sense of what's going on. But yeah, it's more about I have an idea, it pops in my head, and I stick it in the search box, and then that's kind of how I get my stuff.
You have the power to make just one childhood fairy tale true. What would you choose and why?
Oh, man, you guys are coming up with some good ones. Childhood fairy tale. I think it'd be kind of fun to be one of the three little pigs, at least the one that built the brick house. That'd be a fun little fairy tale to be part of.
Okay.
I don't want to be the guy who built the hay one, but certainly
No.
the one who built the brick houses.
Okay, question.
Architect.
What would be the first thing you do if you won the lottery today?
I call my lawyer.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be the very first thing I do.
Well said. Zach, what is your favorite Studio Ghibli movie? For mine, it's obviously When Marnie Was There, but what's yours?
Studio Ghibli?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar. What do you mean Studio Ghibli?
The movies like Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, you're going to be shocked. I don't know those.
Quite all right.
Hey, not everyone watches the same things.
And that's why I posed it.
But now I'm going to have to, you know what I'm going to do right after this? I'm going to go and do a Google search.
What? Yeah, my favorite is Kiki's. That's the one I'd personally recommend. So, what's one pet peeve of yours that you wish that you could just completely make go away because you hate it and it makes your life just not enjoyable at all?
My pet peeve, laziness.
It's fair.
What's your favorite way to wind down after the day? After your work is done?
Ooh, that's a good one. Usually it's probably like a glass of bourbon and a guitar.
Oh, nice.
Nice. I like that. It's very apropos because as soon as we get to the end, Vincent's going to actually play us off in his guitar. So last question, at least for me here, Zach, what podcast are you listening to just to relax, just for fun?
Ooh, well, I've been listening to Finding Our Way. I don't know if you guys have listened to that. Peter Hazerhurst and Jesse James Garrett. That one, I know it's kind of more business related, but I still listen to that that is fun because, man, there's so many things I relate to. I listen to them like, yep, they totally get what I'm going through. That's a good one. I also like No Guitar is Safe, which is a really awesome podcast. It's by this guy Jude Gold. He's an editor for Guitar Player magazine, I believe, and he just goes and he interviews like all the really killer guitarists, and they talk about their process. It's like, here's the thing I was doing when here's how I wrote this song, or here's how I thought about this, and you just hear the breakdown and the thought behind it, and how they approach some of these things, and some of these iconic songs that we hear. And that one I find fascinating. I think the whole creative process of musicians, artists, photographers, whatever. I find the whole process really, really interesting and inspiring.
Love it. Well, we're at the end, I believe, of the lightning round, but traditionally Brian has one more thing for us. Brian.
Yeah. It was, why is Count Dracula a terrible project manager?
Oh, got it.
Because he avoids the stakeholders.
Not bad. I like it. That's good.
Ba-da-boom.
Very nice. Zack, 2 last questions here. What are the best ways people could find out more about you? Where do they go? Where do you want them to visit?
You can hit me up on Twitter at Zack G with a K. The C is silent. You can also hit me up on Instagram at Zack G. I'm original. And you can also ping me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. And it looks like we have a comment from someone here that just wrote, boo. I believe they were looking for a particular comment that we normally make, a question that did not get asked. We'll have that for you next time, Daniel King. Sorry about that. Brian?
I think you should ask it.
Okay, for Daniel, I'll ask it. Daniel, here, I'll put your comment back up here. Zack, let me ask the question. Zack, you come home late at night. It's pitch black. All the power's out. It's been raining cats and dogs. You open the door, and the first thing you see is a ghost. What do you do?
Wow, what's the first thing I do? I guess it depends on is it Casper, or is it Slimer, or is it something
scary? Something scary.
It's scary. You know what? I close the door and I walk back out of my house, and I come back when the power's on and the light. It's daylight, and and hopefully I'm bringing Bill Murray with me.
He's a good one to have in that event. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. So we're at the end here, and I would like to ask you if you could provide some closing words of wisdom for our audience, Zack.
Deep and meaningful.
Something meaningful. I think the first is, really do it for the journey, not the destination. And what I mean by that is, too many people focus on, I'm going to be X when I need to be this thing by the time I get to this stage or this age. And that's totally the wrong thing. If you set out with that in mind, or just that goal, you very well may accomplish that, but you're going to not know what to do next. Whereas if you focus on the journey and just, how do I put myself in a position where I have an opportunity to learn, and always think about, like, if you're going to do something, you should feel a little nervous about it. There should be, a little anxiety. Can I pull this thing off? That's going to put you in the best place to learn and get better. And you'll end up where you're supposed to end up. You'll probably end up at that destination that you want. But if you set out in the first, trying to do it the opposite way, you're probably, that's why a lot of people, I believe, have midlife crisis, because they accomplish this thing. They've been super motivated and do all this stuff. And then they get there and they're like, well, so what? What did it mean? And they forgot that it's all about the journey and the how you grow over time. I think it's really important, especially for more junior designers. I always say, you got to learn how to say no. In fact, I think that's one of the things that separates a designer from a senior designer, is that ability to say no, right? You've got to prioritize. Too many people want to do it all. Like, I'll just do, you need me to do that, I'll do that. And you do it at you kind of peanut butter yourself across stuff. You don't deliver at a high quality. You pay less attention to your craft. You prioritize and say no, like rigorously prioritize, and you'll you'll deliver on the things that you're actually supposed to deliver on instead of trying to just do it all. And I think that the last thing I'll say is just, good work solves all problems. And that's a saying I like to tell all of my teams. Don't worry about the promo. I need to do this thing. Do the work. If you deliver awesome work that solves problems and your customers are happy and it's great work, you've done the exploration, you're delivering great value, people are going to notice. It will take care of all the other problems. Don't worry about the promo. You'll get it. The work is awesome. It will all work out. But if you flip it around and you focus on the other stuff that's less important, you're missing out, and you'll end up with disappointment. Focus on the work. Make it awesome, right? That's the manifestation of yourself in your work. Make it great.
Excellent. I just want to say personally, thank you so much for Zack, for sharing your time and your insight with us. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Yeah, Zack, thanks for spending the evening with us a little bit. Time is, I always say time is the most valuable thing we have, and you chose to spend it with us, so thanks.
Yeah, thank you for your time, Zack. I can relate to the journey, not the destination. Like, getting the first development job was all I thought about. Then I got there, and it's like, what now?
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me, guys. It's been really fun. The lightning round was not expecting that. So that was, I like how you guys threw a curve at me, curveball. That was good. Yeah. Thanks so much. It's a really fun conversation. Appreciate you having me.
Zack Gottlieb. Zack, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And thanks everybody out there for watching. We'll catch you next time. Thanks all.